Do you know, Tim, that they've figured out that scientists that our gut biome, the bacteria in our gut, actually they believe might actually be what's actually making our decisions for us. That's helping us direct things. And so that gut feeling, what feels right, is actually a scientific process as well. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, with the most, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews.
Ooh, doing awesome. Doing really, really good.
I love hearing that. I love hearing that.
Yeah, I love it. And one of the reasons why I think I'm doing so good, I want to cover on this topic on this show today. So the topic of today's show is how to unlock near unlimited personal power.
What a big topic. How many months do we have to cover this?
We have a lifetime. Several. It is a big topic, and I want to break it down the best that we can in order to give the guys, the men, the women listening, again, some real tangibles so that they can take away. And even if it's just one aha that they get from this and they're able to walk away with that, then it's been worth it for us. So, you said something to me. Well, I actually said it to the men on the Brotherhood trip in Morocco, and I listened to it and I was like, do you know what? Wow, it's so true. And that was, if you won the lottery right now, how would you be feeling? Because the guys were complaining they've been tired or whatever complaint they had around their personal power. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, yeah, it's, I'd be over the moon. I'd be jumping up and down. I'd be shouting. I'd be laughing. I'd be screaming. I'd be celebrating. And you said, that energy already exists within you. It really got me thinking, wow, so, okay, I totally buy that, because the first thing is, do you believe that? And obviously I believe it, and hopefully, the listeners, I'm sure it's pretty difficult to disagree with it, right? Unless if you won the lottery, your state didn't change and you continue to be tired and down and out and all the rest of it. Now, the first step in the activation method that we lead the men through, the first territory of self, they use the fundamentals of alpha so they can achieve peace, power, and flow. And flow really is a combination of these guys being in peace and then latching onto their power, and then also then bringing those two together to create a result in their life. So in unlocking near unlimited personal power, I'm going to go with the frame of reference of what we take the guys through, Doug, and what they experience at the Alpha Reset and the theory behind that. So the guys listening know where to start with this. And the first step in achieving peace, really, there's 4 stages in it, and the outcome there is all around achieving peace emotionally. So the 4 phases of detach, release, remember, reinforce. Detach is becoming aware of the story that you're telling yourself. Now, I don't know if you're driving or whether you sat down or whatever it is you're doing, but there's an exercise that we'll lead the guys through. So if you are driving, pull over or come back to this later. Doug, help me out with the disclaimer here. So there's an exercise we take the guys through, and it's called the shadow stickman. And it's usually one of the first things we do with the men, and they're really in that state of being stuck in their head. And I'd love to bring you in a moment, Doug, and get your feedback and input on this as well, because I know you've got some great insight with this. So they're doing this exercise on the first call when they're completely in the midst of their turmoil, because by this point, they've reached the point of, I've got to change. Change is an absolute must. They've jumped into a call, they've joined the program, but they still haven't yet figured out what their path is, who they are, or what they desire. So when we lead them through the shadow stickman, it's all around bringing awareness to how they are currently showing up when they are disempowered. And what we do in this is we get them to get an A4 sheet of paper, and they'll draw a stickman in the middle, and in the top left corner, they'll write thoughts. Top right, it will be feelings. Bottom left, it will be language, and bottom right, it will be actions. They're the 4 pillars of your being. And then we get them to draw a facial expression on the stickman, which really depicts how they are feeling in the moment when they're, like I said, disempowered, whatever's going on in the relationship, arguments, stress, business, resenting the business, all those things. How do they feel? Express it on the face of this stick man, poor stick man. And from there, what are the thoughts that comes to their head? And we usually give them a bit of goading with this. Okay, what do you feel? Do you believe? Do you believe that life has to be hard, that you have to work 16 hours a day to be a man, that you don't deserve your success, that whatever it is? And it's really about getting to the subconscious layer of this, about what their beliefs are. And the same is then for feelings. Okay, so what feelings do you live with on a daily basis when you're in this state of disempowerment? And they may start to say, well, numb. Tim, I just feel numb right now. Well, cool. Do you feel heavy with that? Do you feel sad? Do you feel angry? And we start to point things out. Where do you feel it in your body? And I'll bring you in on this in a moment, Doug, because that's where you know a lot as well. But where do you feel this in your body? Because where you often feel things in your body are a real big indicator of what emotion you're storing. And then your language. That's body language. How do you show up? How are you stood when you feel in this way? How do you carry yourself? How do you talk? Is it fast? Is it slow? Do you make eye contact? Do you look down? Are your shoulders rounded? Are you feeling heavy? What's going on there? And then what actions do you take? Well, I arrive home at night. I'm on my phone all night. I don't turn my phone off until 11 p.m. Wake up, check my emails, skip workouts, rely on caffeine. They'll describe all the actions that they then take. And by the end of this, they know firmly where they are. It's just like, navigating yourself somewhere. The first thing, once you put the destination in your GPS, what does it do? It wants to find out exactly where you are. So in order for you guys to unlock your personal power, you first got to know where you are.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like any trip, right, Tim? When you're unlocking your personal power, you're on a journey. And when you're on a journey, you can't go from point A to point Z, right? Or point W, whatever it is, without knowing where point A is. You just don't know if you're going to be taking a left or a right if you don't know where you're starting from. So very well said. What else should these guys be doing, Tim?
So after this, usually what happens for the men with this, and maybe for you too, if you've paused this episode and you're doing it as we go along, maybe some emotions have started to arise for you. And for the men, what usually happens is there are four main emotions that they're suppressing, and have been suppressing most of their life, and that is guilt, shame, anger, and sadness. And once you have really started to identify where you are, you've got to release those. And we invite the men through various different exercises depending on what is coming up for them. The Alpha Reset, we take them through a very hands-on primal rage release, which is as it sounds. It's very primal. It's accessing deep, deep within themselves, the anger that they have stored and the resentment that they've trapped inside their body, inside their muscles from all those times when they didn't speak their voice, all those times when they wanted to say to that certain person, don't treat me that way, or don't speak to me that way, or no, I won't do that, or yes, I will go there, or whatever it is. Because despite these men being successful businessmen, they're human beings too, just like all of us. And they too have experienced times in their lives when they really haven't been in their power, and it's built up a lot of anger and resentment for them. So you've got to release that anger, guilt, shame, sadness. Another exercise we get them to do, which you may be able to do, is have a clearing conversation. This is something that I did many, many years ago when I was first going through this process myself. And, oh, wow, it was scary and transformational. And to give this some context, so, 5 years ago, before the Powerful Man was a movement, I was going through my own process, my own journey of discovery and transformation, because, the sacrifice that I had made to grow a business had sacrificed my health, my happiness, my relationships. And my life wasn't what I thought it would be. I thought I'd be further ahead than I was. And anyway, I was on this path of discovery, and I came to realize that the first step was inner peace. And then I was having a conversation with somebody, and they said, wow, you've spoken a lot about the relationship with your dad. Is he proud of you? And I'm like, I don't know. And he said, right, are you up for a challenge? Of course, I'm up for a challenge. Bring it on. Said, right, I'll give you 7 days to ask your dad if he's proud of you. I was like, oh, okay, no. Got to the 7th day and I was like, oh, why is this so hard? Like, I was just avoiding the conversation, and got to the 8th day, drove around there and had the conversation with him. And usually for the men, a lot of the anger, guilt, shame, and sadness that they are experiencing, and maybe for you too, is around the lack of love that they experienced. And as a result, they never really felt good enough and thrust themselves into business in order to prove themselves. And when that hasn't worked, that's when they start sabotaging things and using things outside of themselves. So step 1 is to detach the stick man. Step 2 is for you to then release, whether it's the primal rage or your own version of that, or the clearing conversation. Do something to release some of this emotion. Then step 3 is to remember who you really are.
Awesome. I mean, you shared your story so openly, and obviously coming full circle to remembering who you are for those steps is paramount. And guys, if you're listening to this and you haven't taken Tim's advice and paused and actually walked through this, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I'm speaking to not only the men who haven't been through the Powerful Man programs, but also the members, the alumni. We have a strong alumni listening, group. Also for you guys to revisit this. It's so critical to go through this because you don't want to be stuck in the agonies here. So Tim, in moving forward from this perception of they realize the powerful man they are, what else are they going to be doing?
So I just want to touch on something there as well. For a long time, I just tried to skip detach and release. And I was just trying to remember who I was. And that's where I was using affirmations and reading all the self-help books and doing all those things. And they never worked. They never landed for me. And they never landed for me because I didn't believe it. Underneath it all, I wasn't aligned with what I was telling myself. So it's very important that you are able to go through the first 2 steps, arrive at the 3rd one of remember, then move to the 4th one of reinforce. And that's where you can set certain routines up in your day to be able to reinforce the truth of who you really are. Are we able to put in the show notes? Still got a link to the power activation audio, so these guys can actually go through the guided meditation that the men go through to go through step 3, which is remember.
Yeah, absolutely. We can put a link in the show notes, and if for some reason you don't see that, go over to thepowerfulman.com and find this episode, and it'll definitely be in those show notes.
Yeah, awesome. So go through that guided meditation. I recommend that you don't do it like when you're driving or in between meetings or when you get home late at night. Give yourself some space. It's about 20 minutes long, but you're going to do a lot of journaling with it. So give yourself about an hour, and then there's some work that you'll do off the back of that. I think that could really help you. And then when you get to stage 4, reinforce, there's different exercises you can then do to reinforce that. There's a lot of incantations and primal movements and primal exercises you can do. I just can't describe them here. So in terms of unlocking unlimited personal power, the fundamentals of alpha, the 3 steps, peace, power, and flow. By this point, you've achieved the first step, which is peace. And by this point, you want to use the peace and turn it into power. And that's really where we've spoken a lot on previous episodes about you step into the line. Where are you not stepping to the line in your life? Where do you get to step to the line? And this is where the power comes in. And it really, again, 4 steps. It's all about taking radical responsibility for your results, asking yourself empowering questions, making a decision based on what feels right, and then being committed but unattached. And what I love about this, Doug, as it ties into personal power, is that 3rd step. Making a decision based on what feels right. Because for so long, 28, 29 years, I made decisions based on what I thought I should do. And I always played smaller because of it. And I always settled because of it as well.
Hey guys, it's time to get real. Do you feel bored, burnt out, or broken? Discover the system that over 300 businessmen are using to let go of the grind, find inner peace, and unlock near unlimited personal power so they can have more time, more intimacy, and better sex while living a life they love without stressing about work or feeling like a fraud. Go over to thepowerfulman.com/freedom right now and discover the insights that you need to get started. All right, let's get back to the episode. Well, and it's so important. And, there's a couple things I want to unpack there, Tim. One is, guys, write down the fundamentals of alpha: peace, power, flow. That should be on your screensaver, on your wall. The fundamentals of alpha, you skipped over it quickly there, Tim, is just so powerful. Such a powerful tool and realization. The second thing with feeling, I remember I was this guy, Tim, gosh, I don't know how many years ago, over a decade ago, maybe 2 decades at this point, where I'd be like, yeah, feelings, it feels right. That's so, it's airy-fairy, it's out there. I'm a science guy. Don't believe it. Do you know, Tim, that they've figured out that scientists, that our gut biome, the bacteria in our gut, actually, they believe might actually be what's actually making our decisions for us. That's helping us direct things. And so that gut feeling, what feels right, is actually a scientific process as well. So gentlemen, when you're looking at this and you're hearing what Tim has to say, don't dismiss it. A lot of what he's saying is not only backed by just experience, in the trenches experience with men from all over the world just like you, but it's also backed by scientific discoveries. And a lot of this is cutting edge stuff that's just coming out. We've known it and used it with the men and within ourselves, but now science is finally catching up to it. And it's absolutely amazing. Great stuff, Tim.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, there's a great documentary on Netflix called The Gut, The Second Brain.
Okay, I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, there's a great one. And also the heart as well. The actual torus field that comes from the heart is much stronger than, the intuition of the heart as well is a lot more stronger than, a lot more powerful rather than the brain, than the mind. So the mind is kind of moving down. The mind can be trained by the brain and the gut, in essence, rather than the other way around. So it's so true. And, we have a saying in The Powerful Man that peace is power. And when we are leading the men to really understand what it is they want, because peace is all about knowing who you are. Power is about knowing what you want, and then flow is about achieving it, allowing it to happen. And, when we are leading them through the process of power to really get clear on what they want in the 5 territories, there's a compass that the guys use. And if you're doing this too, I'd encourage you to do it. So we get them to make decisions based on what feels right, as step 3. And that is based on what excites them, inspires them, and scares them. And it feels peaceful. It just feels right. For example, there's one guy in the Brotherhood that this week, Doug, I don't know if you know this actually, on the call last Thursday that I had with the men, I left the call, because obviously the call on Thursday is for the fundamentals of alpha. I left the call with them saying, what's one thing between now and next week that you can commit to doing that's going to excite you, inspire you, and scare you? And this one particular man committed to traveling to another country where he doesn't know anyone, without having any accommodation pre-booked, without carrying £1,000 in his wallet like he usually does, and without taking any food with him either.
Wow, I know who this is, and what an amazing feat for this man.
Yes, and he posted some pictures yesterday of himself in Amsterdam. He arrived there, having no accommodation booked, found a place that had just opened. He had his £50 note. That was his little float. He had his bank cards, obviously. But this guy, suffered heavily from anxiety. What actually brought him into our world was seeing a video on a paralyzing presence. That's how much it really resonated with him. And one of these comfort mechanisms was he would carry food around with him. At all the alpha resets, at the events, he'd bring food in his suitcase. He'd carry £1,000 in cash just in case all his cards got lost. He was stranded in the middle of nowhere. He had to get a flight back home from anywhere in the world, basically. So this was a huge thing for him. And him saying that and making that commitment came out of him being at peace and being able to tune into what he felt called to experience which was an up leveling. And this is how these guys are making bigger decisions easier and faster in their business and taking time off so they can actually enjoy time with the people they love and be fulfilled without worrying about work or feeling like they don't deserve it. There's no more tug of war going on inside them. So just to recap here, unlocking near unlimited personal power. You've been through the process of peace. You've got to get that first so you can find peace within yourself. You can then move into power and action mode, which is taking radical responsibility for your results. Accept, choose, decide, commit. Accept, taking radical responsibility for your results. Choose, asking yourself empowering questions. Decide, make a decision based on what feels right. And then commit, be committed but unattached. Be committed to the end outcome and unattached with how you get there. It's not about being married to the how. It's about being committed to the outcome. So the final piece here is then flow. So once you've got these, peace and power on lockdown, it's about putting it into a daily workflow so that you're actually able to have a system by which you can operate in this way in the world. And this is where some of the morning routines come in. The Alpha Rise and Shine routine, the Alpha Decompression routine, they're both powerful routines that the guys use, and then other breath work and pieces that we're going to dive into. I just want to clarify one thing before we do this, Doug. And this is kind of my episode, right?
Shoot, buddy. You're on a roll. This is amazing.
So, the powerful man, we use the word alpha a lot. And the reason why we do that is because actually in nature, if you were to look at a pack of wolves, the alpha wolf is actually one of the most peaceful and calm members of the pack. He allows the other members of the pack to do their thing, to play, to fight, to express themselves. He doesn't impose himself on people. He's not aggressive. He's not dominant. He doesn't have a leadership by tyranny, if you will, like other wolves do, who then get ran out of their pack and end up being a lone wolf. So just to clarify, being alpha means a quiet confidence, a quiet self-assurance. You know what you need to do. You know what's best for your pack. You lead by example. You're very comfortable with that, and you have a calming effect. That's what it means to us. So when we say things like the Alpha Rise and Shine routine, the Alpha Decompression routine, the fundamentals of alpha is a really profound philosophy by which these men live by. And it's a very real philosophy as well. So getting into flow then, the Alpha Rise and Shine routine. So the real outcome there, guys, is for you to attune your energy. And something that I've tried recently, and I'm now 5 days clean, I'm 5 days sober of caffeine. When Doug said that about the lottery, and if you won it, how would you feel? I'd realized I'd started telling myself the story that I need caffeine in order to have energy to work out in the morning. And I didn't like that. It was like I was giving my power away to coffee. So what I've done over the past few days is I've experimented with how to access more of my personal power so I can work out and I actually feel great from not having caffeine. My sleep's improved. I'm losing more weight, body fat that is. I'm more focused. I'm happier. I'm less stressed. It's quite remarkable, the change. And I'm having 1 cup a day as well. 1 cup in the morning, which was the size of a double espresso, around about 10 a.m., 9 a.m., but I'm realizing all the stories I used to tell myself, Doug, that it's because of the caffeine that I can get so fired up. I realize it's got nothing to do with the caffeine. I realize I've got all this power inside of me that's there anyway. So one of the things I've done is I've introduced a pranayama breath work. So there's different ways you can do pranayama breath work, and it's all around different breathing techniques that can really activate certain pathways in the body whereby energy flows easier and you feel basically on fire. Not literally, but you can just go. You've got that power there. So part of the Alpha Rise and Shine routine, the A stands for attunement. The L stands for love, so tuning into love, so gratitude for the day. The P stands for purpose. What's the purpose for the day? The H stands for health. H stands for honoring the body. You're going to be doing something that honors the body. And then A then stands for accelerate, activate, basically go and get the day started. So in and amongst that routine, the breath work and meditation, and I know you've heard these things before. Obviously, it's not the time here to dive into meditation techniques and whatnot, but in terms of you guys unlocking unlimited personal power, the breath work, the meditation, we give the guys the chart of intentional living, which is a coil. Well, we call it coil, has gratitude and other pieces on. So it's once you've got the peace and the power, putting it into a container in which you know it can bounce around in and be productive in is absolutely key. And especially that evening routine, that you've got something in place that you know you can do and turn to that's going to change your energy before you get home, because you do not want to take that same problem-solving mentality that has served you so well in business during the day into your relationship. You know, your partner doesn't want to be solved and all the rest of it. She just wants to be listened to and held, and, you know, however it works for you guys. And one of the other things to cover on, the final thing really to cover on the aspect of flow, is the guys do something called jam sessions. So within the chart of intentional living, they have the 5 territories and 1 to 3 commitments in the day. They then put those into blocks, 1 to 2 hour blocks in the day that they can then move around in the calendar. And usually there are 2 or 3 blocks per day, each of them with one outcome. Now think about this for a second. Just imagine if you were able to have gone through a process whereby you feel at peace within yourself. There's no more tug of war, no more chaos whirling within, and then you're able to be in tune with what you feel called to create in the world, who you feel called to be, what you feel called to do and to have, and as a result, then actually have the energy and the power to go out there and do it. I mean, when you're able to do that, the difference, the results that you then get in your life, well, the guys, you know, they grow more profits, less stress, relationships transform, they lose weight, they experience phenomenal results because they have a container in which they're able to make the spiritual side, if you want, of this practical. It's not some woo-woo, you know, meditation or, you know, affirmation or whatever it is that they do. There's a practical element to this where it can produce a result for them in their life, and they're able to actually have a balance to what it is they do, so they can enjoy time with the people they love without worrying about work.
So true. And talk about an episode worth rewinding and going back through time and time again. Wow, great stuff, Tim.
I'm just going to throw a couple more things in there what these guys use for personal power. Nature, huge one. Spend more time in nature. Gratitude, obvious one, but again, what you focus on, you get more of. Breath work, like I said. Meditation, like I said. Accountability is huge for anyone. If you want to unlock your more personal power, be accountable to something bigger than you and to people that are not going to tell you what you want to hear. You've got to have people around you that are going to tell you the things that sometimes you don't want to hear. Camaraderie as well. You know, being around other men that are committed to a similar mission to you, by default, their belief rubs off on you. So obviously eating clean and working out and things like that are absolutely important as well. Again, none of those will work for you until you've got the peace element in place. Not to the capacity that they could do anyway.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. So guys, I'm going to say it for the third time. Make sure you're actually taking action. You know, I call it educational masturbation when we just listen to a podcast and don't do anything about it. Take action on what Tim has said here. Absolutely fantastic, Tim. This is one where I'm just sitting here in silence, listening to you and really getting a lot of nuggets myself and things that I will go practice out in nature today. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you, brother. And this episode's been a blur for me. I'm just stood here at times like keeping it on track. And so guys, thank you for sticking with it and listening. And as always, I hope you've taken value from it. There's a lot in there. slow it down, rewind it, unpack it, implement it, see how it goes for you. And like we say, if you could leave us a review so we can reach even more men and women, that would be fantastic, because we're on a mission here to help as many men as possible.
Love it. Guys, until next time, we'll see you here.